But I think what I'm trying to say is I think there's an X factor with these things. There's just that thing that you just can't quite put your finger on sometimes when a movie goes from being just that. Let's say Die Hard. That's a film that's been remade a million times since, but the story is actually not that clever. Nobody thought Bruce Willis could be an action hero. It was made with no money, and nobody in Fox wanted to make it. In the end, they basically got made. It basically got made because they just sort of went. It's almost like they just got bored of listening to people moan, so they just went, "Oh, okay, well, just do it then." And they were only allowed to sort of film at night when no one else was around, and this sort of thing. And it nearly didn't get made, you know. And it's like there's a similar story with like Home Alone, which I think is pretty close to the original. You know, it's a perfect movie for what it is.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Nearly didn't get made. Even these people that professionals in this is what I'm trying to say. Even these people that, you know, like making movies is their life, sometimes don't know what a good film is. They can't, they wouldn't know a good film if it slapped them in the face, sort of thing.
Did I tell you my theory about why Star Wars episodes 4, 5, and 6 were so much better than 1, 2, and 3?
Go on.
Because, you know, in episodes 4, 5, and 6, people still had the courage to tell George Lucas to his face, no.
Yeah.
Especially the editor. But by the time it comes back around to where he can make first and second and a third, who in Hollywood was ever going to tell George Lucas no?
Yeah.
I mean, he was just, well, yes, Mr. Lucas. Yes, Mr. Lucas. Jar Jar Binks, best idea ever, Mr. Lucas.
He's not at all irritating. I'm not irritating, Misa. Misa, not irritating.
Jar Jar, go bye-bye.
Yeah, Jar Jar will go bye-bye. Bye-bye, Jar Jar. I have a similar theory with Tim Burton. I think the first Batman with Michael Keaton is a piece of art. I think it is actually pretty close to a perfect movie. But it also then became the biggest hit at the time. It was, you know, number one on the how much money it made.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it made a phenomenal amount of money when superhero movies weren't making money. And then Tim Burton was just allowed to go out. They just went, well, Tim Burton, you're obviously a genius. You must do whatever you want in the next movie. I love the idea of A Nightmare After Christmas, A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
The idea is great. I think it looked great. I think it was and that film is, but in places, it's boring because of Tim Burton and his style and the way he has to make movies. And it's just, it just makes me want to hurt myself. Not as bad as watching the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie makes me want to hurt myself, though. That film makes me want to actually
cut your finger off.
Yeah, I'll cut whatever you want off rather than watch that film.
Burton has a tremendous fan following. I mean, he could make anything and it'd still do great because he has a tremendous fan following for that kind of aesthetic in a film. It really is amazing.
And it does stand out from anything else. I mean, I have to argue, it's just not for me. I think that's the problem. I can respect the style, and I can respect what he does. It's just not for me. I just wish sometimes he had somebody in to tone him back, like I think he did for the first Batman.
Right.
Just to pull him in a little bit. And I think he would make a better movie. But saying that, shouldn't a director have free roll? Isn't that why he's there?
I mean, it's definitely the director's piece of art, you know, but it's also the studio and the producer's money. And the studio pay a lot of other people to have their input that they trust. So it's not, things don't go awry, but there are a few filmmakers in Hollywood that this just whatever they say goes. Whatever the director says goes. So like A New Hope, Star Wars New Hope, episode 4, you know, the studio got their cut, and then how many cuts did George Lucas produce?
Yeah.
You know, over and over and over. And by the time we got to episode 1, no one. I mean, they knew it was, regardless of how good or bad the movie was going to be, how questionable Jar Jar Binks would have been. Yeah. That thing's going to make a ton of cash.
Yeah, they do.
There was Steven Spielberg. Who was going to run roughshod over Spielberg?
No, exactly.
Probably one of the best cinema makers in the last 100 years.
I think every generation sometimes has like the like in sport, every generation has that, like the Roger Federer, or
Right.
the Jordan, or the Michael Jordan, or the things like this.
Well, I would say James Gunn would be one of the generation. Yeah.
He does make some great movies. I love God.
I mean, Peacemaker, right? Also Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I mean,
you say Kevin Feige is he's probably the most powerful man in cinema right now. I mean, he did such a good job with the Marvel that basically Disney handed him the company, and not quite, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And now he can do no wrong, but he's not really a movie maker. He's a manager. He's not a director. He's not a writer. He's a manager. He's really great at. They've got a formula, and we're sticking to this formula, and then he gets the right people in to do it. He's like a great football manager. I'm not sure who the big players are now that you think they can do no wrong.
Well, we never know
boom. What is it?
We really never know they're the big players until a decade's passed.
Probably,
yeah. When Gremlins came out, well, this little Steven Spielberg guy, if he really works hard at it, he may make something of himself. And it was that way with
Aliens next. What a loser! What an idiot! Yeah.
I mean, when Lucas came out with THX, is like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And then there was like no one. I mean, then he did American Graffiti, and that did very well. And then he got to Star Wars, and what is this shit? Oh God, let's try to kill this in the bathtub if we can. Never exactly happened. And then, we never know these are the emerging artists until decades pass, and they've shaped culture in ways we've never really expected. So, it's like Jon Favreau,
Jon Favreau, yeah. Chris Nolan has just been suggested. Yeah. I mean, you could say definitely a decade ago, he was the man. He could do no wrong.
David Fincher, he did the disaster of Aliens 3 with extreme studio meddling.
Yeah.
And then his next film was The Game, which was awesome film. Awesome
movie. One of the things I used to like about Steven Spielberg was he used to make films like Hook to pay for films like Schindler's List.
Yeah.
And he was always doing that those sort of deals with studios. I will make this movie for you that's a steaming pile of crap I don't want to make, but I want to make the Thingy to Tibet, whatever it's called. It's like, so you fund that and I'll make you a crap load of money if you do this, and which won't, but you might win an Oscar. That was one of the things about Spielberg I used to love, and I don't see a great deal of that now. It seems to be just like, how do we make money?